What is going on, everybody? Welcome to episode number 27. I'm your main host, Coach YoYo. We have our co-host, Coach Nik. Obviously, you guys already know he's never going anywhere.
I moved in. I live
every
here now.
time.
This is
beginning
my
of an
bedroom.
episode, it's the same conversation. It's
the
so
exact
funny.
same.
And obviously, we have Colton in the background that does everything on the back end. He directs traffic a little bit here and there. And we have our special guests.
What's up?
This person has been trying to schedule the podcast with for
The whole
literally
year.
over
The entire year.
Over a year. Here's why.
Yep.
Last year, she competed in her first bikini competition. Literally a year ago. And yes, we've been trying to schedule, and it just couldn't work. And now I feel like everything happened for a reason.
Oh, it always does.
Yeah.
Like you and I always talk about, I'm like, man, this, like, the universe is really fighting us on this. And you know what? Like, I almost canceled last night because I hurt my knee. I was like, dude, I don't know if I could. And then I'm like, you know what? I cannot cancel anymore.
Right?
And
right?
I was laying in bed too with my knee messed up.
Yeah.
It was like 2 a.m. I'm like, should I text you?
He hurt his knee too. Long
it was
story
a-
short. Long
yeah,
story
It
short.
was a mess.
But we have our special guest, Marianne Hickman. How are you?
I'm so happy to be here.
Thank you for being on.
I'm so stoked we made it work. A year of trying, and we're
About
like,
time.
all right, the forces are like conspiring against us. We
Yes.
have to make it happen today.
Yeah, and the
glad we did.
The coolest thing about your journey, though, and I think this is something that I wanted to address with a lot of my clients that are listening to this, a lot of the moms that are listening to this. In fact, I actually have a couple of clients that came to us and got pregnant later on, and they couldn't continue their journey.
That's cool.
But you decided to come to me in the middle of your pregnancy. Literally, I think you were like 24 weeks.
I like right smack dab in the middle.
Yeah, I remember that, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But I wanted you to share your journey from being pregnant to having your 6th child, mind you, 6, ladies and gentlemen, and turn around and have this crazy thought of, hey, I want to do a show.
It was absolutely insane.
Yeah. But we wanted to do Wasatch, we wanted to do June show or April and June show, but we just couldn't pull it, right?
Yeah.
On top of that, we had to fight your hormones.
Yep.
When you
Oh, you
after
think
the
you had to
after
fight
the
with
baby.
hormones? Richard had to fight with hormones.
Yeah, it says, is Richard okay?
Yeah,
lived.
yeah, we'll talk about that too. And so we went from pregnancy to having a child to now body composition in going into the summertime, and then we finally started prep, obviously in the summertime, going into the November show. And I know we wanted to do a show earlier in the year, but we just couldn't have. We just don't have enough time because the baby weight and a lot of things that are happening, especially your hormones. It honestly, like, she is the first client that I've had that had a baby and immediately didn't want to do a show. No one has ever done that. Like, I've never heard of anyone, any person, any mom. I mean, they'll do a show a year later.
Yeah.
But
like the fall.
literally, you give birth and you're okay.
Yeah. Who does
Prep
that?
I'm not
starts right
saying
now.
it's a good idea.
Yeah. No,
It's an idea.
It's an idea.
We
It
never
works.
said it was great either.
No.
I even asked you, I was like, are you sure you want to do this?
Oh, I was so hell-bent on it, though.
Yeah.
But I think after dealing with pregnancy and giving birth, you're probably like, yeah, this is going to be nothing.
Oh, my
Like, this is going to be a
gosh.
cakewalk compared to that.
Yeah, so we're gonna go into your journey. We're gonna talk about your intro into your health journey, and what is your why, and where did you start this discipline of wanting to be in the gym and being the mom that you are now, mom of 6 now. We're gonna go into that journey of I know you have all of your kids. I know we talked a lot about your kids are looking up to you and they want to eat the same
where's that
thing.
emotional support pillow?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's why it's
we
here.
have that. That's why we have that.
Just save that for later.
We need to put our logo on it for like
Yeah, I know.
Right?
Yeah, I know. We too. But
Put tears here.
it's a great idea.
Yeah, there's a
idea.
reason why I'm here.
So
Branding.
27.
Finally figured it out.
So let's start with your journey. Why? What's your why? What's up?
Oh, for just being healthy overall. I mean,
Yeah.
shoot. When you become a parent, you realize how much your kids repeat you.
Oh yeah.
Right? You'll see this really quick. Like that they'll start regurgitating things that you say and things that you do, and watching them. When I first started going to the gym, I was really being consistent with it, right? I was in high school, and I remember seeing my brother's bench press record. Now, I'm the last of 10 kids.
What?
So
10?
Yeah.
What?
10?
So,
10?
yeah, my mom's a saint. And then the youngest,
Whoa.
right? So my oldest brother's
Same.
same parents
Parent.
all the way through. Yeah. Yeah,
Good job.
they are
I think that
literal
might be the
saints.
record. Because Jess's mom had 9.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
I was number
Your
10.
youngest. Holy cow. Okay.
Yeah. So my oldest brother is 18 years older than me, and I remember going to the high school gym and seeing his name on the bench press. Now this is 18 years later, because right, I'm at the tail end, and I was like, dang, that's pretty cool. And I went to the, did my workouts at school and started to just get in this habit of working out. And I wish I could say in the beginning that it was for a good reason. In high school, I was actually very body dysmorphic. I watched myself in elementary school and junior high. I had a big gut and all of this. And
Were you overweight when you were
in grade school, I was. In high school, I started to go down in weight because I got unhealthy about my health. I was bulimic. I would stick my hands down my throat. I would throw up.
God.
And I shrunk. I mean, it was effective, right? Not healthy.
kind of like Ozempic, but
Yeah. It was.
shots fired. Shots fired.
Yeah, right?
Literal shot,
Anyway.
right?
And
The dad
Stop
jokes
with
with
the
making
dad
a
jokes,
joke,
there
bro.
it is. But I was just, I thought that I had to be healthy in order to keep, not healthy. It was not healthy. I thought I had to be skinny in order to keep my boyfriend at the time. Because there was all of this, what I perceived to be competition, and I compared myself to other people constantly. I wanted to be on the cheer team, but I never had the money to be on the cheer team. But I thought maybe if I can have a cheer body, it will make me better. And I eventually, and after 6 months of bulimia, I read about what it could do to your teeth and what it could do to the long-term things, and I
And your gut.
tape and your gut, and all, I didn't even know. Like the
Yeah.
teeth was enough for me. So I weaned myself off of it, and I don't think anybody knows. I don't.
No one knew.
Wow.
I mean, this is the first time I've ever said it publicly, except for to you earlier.
Whoa.
So
Well, I didn't know about that.
yeah.
Like, this is the first time I'm hearing it.
So I've never said this to anyone before. I think my husband knows, but
Right. Wow.
I struggled with this perception of my body and it being connected to my sense of self-worth. And when I got out of high school, I married when I was 18. I didn't go to my high school prom because I married this guy, right? And, we were married for 13 years. I had 5 kids, and my weight was representative of my stress levels, and I bloated up again. And when I had my first baby, I was very sick, and I just ate anything that I could keep down, which turned into peanut M&Ms all the time, right? And I was like, I'll just hide my extra weight in my pregnancy, right? And when I had my baby, I had her, and I stepped on the scale after I delivered her. I was 171 pounds, and on a 5'2" frame, that's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot. And I hired my very first health coach from a lady I saw at Bossa. Her name is Heidi Jukes. Love her to death. I don't know if you know her or not. Incredible lady. And she taught Zumba. She was also a health coach for MetaFast, I think it was called at the time. And so I jumped on that, and I dropped all the way down to 120. And I was like, this feels great. I want to stay here as much as I can. But, without a coach all the time in your back pocket, you're going to pick up habits and make excuses and not check in and not be accountable. And so it fluctuated. I never got up to 160, 170 again. But when I saw that 140, I was like, dang it, I don't have this under control. And
Was that after your 5 kids?
that was around, after kid number 5, I got up there.
Wow.
And I started going back to the gym with my youngest when she was born, and I started building muscle again, but it accordioned, right? It just this high and low, and then it was just this yo-yo effect of never being consistent with it, but I wanted to have a baseline. And when I got to the point where I was going to the gym every morning, I was surrounded by a group of people who were really good examples in the gym. I had my gym buddies, I had my gym friends, and we started to get really consistent. And then I saw this bikini competition that a friend of mine had done 5 years before. And I was like, I wonder if I could do that. That would be so far from where I feel like I am now. And at the time I was training on the Stairmaster for hiking mountains. I was doing functional fitness. When I got married to my husband, we started doing CrossFit, and oh my gosh, I was so livid. I was so mad at CrossFit because I could weight train in the gym, and I was the best. And not to put my girlfriends down, but I lifted heavier than all of them. And I had this bad sense of ego, like behind the scenes of like, I'm outdoing everybody. I'll lift 2.5 pounds heavier. And then I go to CrossFit and I sucked at it. I was so bad. I was trying to do double unders and they were hitting me in the face and I couldn't do the running. And it was like a slap to my ego, which I needed. Yeah. But there were times when I would go out on the grass and cry because everyone was passing me up. And I just felt like,
it's a different ball game.
It's so different. I loved it after, 2.5 years. And then when I was pregnant with my last baby, with Jerem, I was like, my friends were all starting to do this competition. I had this really bad sense of FOMO. I was like,
it was FOMO.
Bad sense of FOMO. I was like, I know I'm 23 weeks pregnant, but I think okay, why not? Everyone else is going to shoot for it. Why not? And then I called you and I was like, okay, so hey, yo, do you work with pregnant ladies? I want to do a competition. I can only imagine your face.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't think the competition was actually in mind at the time. I think you just wanted to work with me through pregnancy and have a healthy pregnancy, right?
I really did. Because of that first pregnancy, I allowed myself to just use the pregnancy as an excuse to eat whatever the hell I wanted. Sorry. Have to put an explicit tag on it.
No.
No.
This is raw.
Okay, good.
100%.
Okay, let's go.
If you haven't heard our last episode.
Yeah. It's raw. It's
good.
raw.
Gosh.
But I wanted to have a really, not just bikini prepping pregnancy. I wanted to have a healthy pregnancy where I was eating good food, my baby was healthy, and I didn't balloon up.
Yep.
And I wanted...
I think we did.
We nailed it.
If I remember correctly, we exactly increased 25 pounds.
Yeah. And I'd never been that on point.
And that was your healthiest?
Healthiest pregnancy overall. Like to the point where it made my morning sickness more tolerable. It made me the recovery, no postpartum at all, which I think postpartum is completely recoverable through health and nutrition.
100%. And I think the postpartum, I think it has a lot to do with your mindset and your goal, right?
100%.
I mean, obviously, I'm not a woman, so I can't really speak for y'all. But what I'm saying is that I think our mind plays tricks on us, right?
Yeah.
If you have nothing going on in your life, you're bored, you think of anything to make your life, harder.
Yeah,
for
if you're
no
not
reason.
getting sleep and if you're not...
Those first couple of weeks, you're up every 2-3 hours to feed the baby.
Oh, my gosh.
There's only so much as the dad that we can do in that time.
Yeah.
So we're just
for the listeners understand that, again, we did not do anything special really for your nutrition. We went up all the way up to 2,300 calories, right? And then we hover between 19 to 2,100 calories during your pregnancy. I think we were hovering around 200 to 250 grams of carbs.
Yeah.
And you have a pretty good amount of fat.
Really good.
Yeah, and we
dialed it in.
We make sure you have a ton of fiber, and a ton
Plenty
of
veggies.
Yep. A lot of proper nutrients, right? I mean, I think your nutrition was about 90% whole foods with 10%.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was feeding you a lot of food, right? And obviously, the baby compressed a little bit.
Yeah.
So you won't be able to eat so much. But I think we made sure, every week you check in, I made sure, hey, did you get all your meals in? That's all I wanted to know.
Yep, it was just like eating all day, little bits all day. Yeah. And I had your help and I had my doctor's help and we did a lot of blood work. So we kept everything under monitoring. Yep. Like I don't, the last thing I want to hear is that someone is going through pregnancy and putting their health at risk for the sake of the image of their body. That's you don't want to do that. Right. It's ridiculous.
It had nothing to do with your image at all. No. It was all, we looked at your weight, okay, where are we at weekly or bi-weekly? And then we looked at your calories. Are you hungry? You're not hungry. And then I think, if I remember correctly, I gave you a cheat meal once, or was it once every 2 weeks?
I think it was once every 2 weeks.
Yeah, I asked if you wanted a cheat meal once a week, and you said no. And I was like, that's fine.
I didn't need it.
But I mean, honestly, how many just people, not even women, pregnant women, but how many people could have that discipline? Like, no, I don't want it every week. Like, let's go every other week. And even then, I mean, what was your cheat meal?
Oh gosh, it was like, it wasn't like cheesecake and cookies. It was like, I'm gonna have barbecue sauce on my chicken today. My relationship with food was, I went through my toxic period, right, where I would eat whatever I wanted because I knew I was gonna throw it up later. And so I stopped using food as a reward system. I stopped using food as a social gathering thing, when...
You removed the emotional attachment.
Well, and there was a deep one.
Yeah.
When I remember the day I was in 3rd grade when my friend Brittany... gosh, I hated my 3rd grade teacher at the time. But he came into class on April 1st, and I thought he was playing an April Fool's joke on us.
Oh.
And he came in and he said, and our classmate, Brittany, had passed out at the bus stop. We don't know if she's okay. And I was mad because I thought he was pranking us, and turns out he wasn't. She was third grade. That makes you, gosh, what? 8?
Yeah, 8, 9. Yeah.
Her heart has expanded so much with a genetic condition that it crushed her lungs.
Oh my God.
And they never knew, because the first symptom is you start passing out because you can't breathe. But that was the last time she ever woke up. And when she died, I was like, I'm 8. Yeah. How can my friends be dying? Yep. And I went to her funeral, and I remember the day that I sat down after her funeral, and I was like, what do people do when they're sad? They eat a half gallon of ice cream. Mm-hmm. That's what I'd seen in the media. That's what people joked about. They put
it in movies and TV shows.
They put it in movies, like the depressed, they make it funny, but that was the only thing the only example I had. Mm-hmm. And so I remember grabbing the brown container with the blue lid of Dryer's ice cream, Rocky Road.
Oh, yeah.
And I sat in front of the TV and I ate until half a gallon was gone, because that's what you were supposed to do. Yeah. And that was where this emotional attachment to food came in, because it was at that point that I started compensating for a lack of sweetness in my life with sugar in my food. Mm-hmm. If there was sweetness in my food, then that was the only sweetness or joy in my life. And at least so I thought. Yeah. That's how I thought you were supposed to put joy back in your life. And that affected me all through high school up until, in my marriage, in my first marriage, I would compensate with this sweetness, because my first marriage had its own set of troubles and infidelities and all of these things. And I would compensate with that if I had had a coach, I would have learned a lot faster, but through mistakes. You can do mentorship or mistakes. Yep. Both will get you there. The mistakes are a lot more expensive and not guaranteed. Mentorship, I will pay for that a million times over.
You can get there a lot faster.
And a lot faster. You can pay with somebody else's mistakes.
Can you? Well, you guys heard that?
I'm telling you right now. I'm telling you.
Yeah. There's so many. I'm sorry, I didn't want to cut you off, but there's so many people out there thinking that you can do these things on your own. Right? I went to a coaching seminar last Friday. Yeah. Right? And people I actually had a friend. I'm like, well, why do you go to that? You already have a successful business, whatever. I'm like, no, I'm still learning. Yeah. This is how we learn. This is how we win.
And if you hire a coach that doesn't have a coach, fire him.
Yeah, exactly. So we all have coaches. We all have coaches.
We all do.
Yeah. Well, I want to ask, because you said, had you had a coach sooner, you would have learned the stuff faster. Yeah. I kind of want to challenge, do you really think you would have? Because it sounds like what you went through in that window of, you had your 5 kids until you met Richard, you got pregnant with your 6th, and then you meet Johan and learn the discipline. There was a lot of lessons along the way. Oh, for sure. So had you not learned those lessons, even if you had a coach at the time, do you think you would be where you're at today? Or do you look back and be like, you know what? Because I think back to a lot of things I went through in my life, and while it was hell, and I wish I didn't have to go through it, I know that if I tried to make things work a different way without going through those, or if I could go back in time and change it, I wouldn't have what I have today.
Well, and here's the thing. People say live with no regrets, and I think that's BS. I have regrets. That's what teaches me not to do stupid shit again. Yep. Right? So I still think that having a coach would have collapsed the timeline and would have made it go faster. However, would I change anything? Even though I have regrets, no, I wouldn't change anything, because I learned the lesson. But I have to say, Alex Hormozi puts this really well. He says we start at our A point, and then we go through life, and we have highs, and then we have lows. And it's at this low point where there's a deciding factor. If you're at your low point and you are a victim mind, you're going to keep going low. Yep. And that only ends one way. Or you can say, this is my rock bottom. I believe we decide where our rock bottom is. We decide when we've had enough. We decide when to put the damn shovel down and stop digging ourselves into this hole and say, am I going to learn something from this? And I can do that by scraping my fingernails on the side of the wall and learning, or I can have a coach say, please help me. Yeah. So, I mean, with everything that I went through and learned, I would have crawled my way out, but every time I hire a coach, it's faster. Yep. It's faster.
I agree.
It's always faster.
And that's important. And here's why speed is important. Because there is a ticking time clock for all of us. The time is the one luxury none of us have. And if we think we have the luxury of time, you're just pulling ourselves. We don't have time. I lost my brother in July of this year. I'm doing a lot of crying. It's all right. So my brother passed away in July unexpectedly.
Yeah. Did I message you?
I think you did. Yeah.
I think
I think I got a message from you. Yeah, and I appreciate that. He passed away because of a stroke, and I've never buried a sibling before. My parents have never buried a child before, and watching my nieces and nephews say, "How am I going to do life without Dad?"
That's hard.
That's a question no one should ever have to ask, and it just revealed to me how precious each day is, and how you've got to learn fast to love the life that you live, because you don't know how long it is. Yeah. If I want to live to 144, great, but I've got to stop putting things off, because God forbid I might leave earlier than that. Yep. And I've got to. That's my biggest irrational fear is leaving my kids behind without finishing everything that I was supposed to teach them. Mm-hmm.
Wow. And you said he passed away. A stroke?
He had a stroke. Yeah. He had what they call a catastrophic stroke, and it was just unrecoverable.
Was he a healthy person? He's not a healthy person.
No, I wish he could say he was, but he dealt with a lot of demons, mental and emotional and physical demons.
Yeah. And I think, and I'm going to speak on that a little bit, right? So I saw this video this morning, actually. I forgot his name, but it was a very famous motivational speaker. And they're like, why are you counting macros all the time? You restrict yourself. And what if you die tomorrow? Then you wish you can have this donut the day before.
No, I don't.
And I'm like, I understand that thought process. Yeah. And I think there's a demon between both sides too. Like I get it. You know, we don't want to be restrictive. But at the same time, it's called managing your life better, aka balancing. I don't use balance, right?
I don't either.
I don't, yeah. So you manage healthy foods, and then you manage some junk food here and there, you know, and it's okay. But if I consume that every day, you're doing yourself a disservice as well for you, for not only for you, but for your kids as well, right? For your family. Yep. Yeah. And so I see that all the time, parents now, and they're overweight. And then the kids, 9 times out of 10, are typically follow their path. And it's not their kids' fault, right? So it's hard for me to see especially doing what we do for a living now that we have our own children. Like, dude, like it's so hard for me to see. Yeah. Even right now, like I hurt my knee last night, right? And my first thought process was anything else about what I wanted to do, what my goals were. I'm like, dang it, I can't run around with my kid. Son of a bitch. Yeah. Like I can't chase him around, like, cause we play a lot. Yeah. Right? And I'm so this morning, the first thing I came downstairs, I was wobbling. Dad, can we go outside and play with my cars? I'm like, and that was literally the first thing he said to me. And I was like, shit. And that's just me being, you know.
That's a temporary bum knee.
It's just a temporary bum knee, right? But I could imagine, you know, I made this post the other day. I couldn't imagine what people would think about, you know, my question here is, if you don't have time for health and wellness, I'll post that. Yep. How do you have time for sickness?
Yeah, right? I saw that post that you made the other day, and I was like, okay, I wish everyone would tattoo this on their brains.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
But we don't think about it during the time.
Not just time, but money.
Yeah.
It is.
Right?
It's expensive. I mean, medications, going to the doctor's visits, if you have to get x-rays, CT scans, blood work.
What's wrong with me?
Yeah.
Well, in reality, you're not really doing anything at home to fix that.
Yeah.
You're just going to the doctor thinking that they're going to give you something.
The magic pill.
The magic pill to just mask the problem. And guess what? That pill has its
side
own
effects.
Side effects.
Have you ever listened to an infomercial? My kids and I make fun of these. Like,
dude.
Here's this solves depression, but it might cause suicidal thoughts. I'm
exactly.
Like, what the hell?
This is for your blood pressure, but it's going to cause your heart to skip a beat.
Some oxygen.
Your liver's going to shut down. You're going to start to hallucinate. You might lose your vision.
Right? Like,
it's like, I'll deal with the high blood pressure then. Like, oh my God.
It pisses me off so much because I mean, we could go into big pharma and government all day long, but think about how much money is made in sick people. There's so much money to be made in sick people. There's no money in healthy people, and there's no money in dead people. So there are motivations by people who are making your clothes. I just found out all my yoga pants are toxic.
Yeah.
Son of a motherless goat.
Well, if you knew from going through all the cancer stuff I'm going through and learning and all that, if you just the amount of shit out there that is toxic. Yeah. I mean, everything is. Your laundry detergent, the clothes you're wearing, this. I mean, plastic water bottles, your food. I mean, it's almost like everything. You walk outside and
we got rid of that.
And you're going to start getting sick.
Yeah.
So, it's difficult. But to touch on your point of, sick people make money, one of the things I've been learning and researching is the different types of treatment. Obviously, we know depending on how aggressive the cancer is. One of the most common forms of chemotherapy drug available for stage 4 cancers is called bevacizumab. And the FDA didn't approve it. They just said you could go ahead and give it because of what it does. So when cancer metastasizes, it can create one of 27 different pathways to spread throughout the body by creating different proteins. Because its goal is to get to the source of the body where it's going to get the most nutrients, which is either the lungs, the brain, the bones, the liver, wherever it's trying to go. But bevacizumab, on average, costs about $8,000 a round. And if you're stage 4, you're averaging about 2 rounds of chemo a week. So I don't know if you've got $64,000 lying around.
That's crazy.
To pay for this on top of all the other stuff you're doing. But it doesn't matter how shitty the economy is, what's going on, if it's election time, whatever. If the economy is shit, we're always going to be okay because we have sick people. We have all the medications that are going to be prescribed. I mean, the doctors we know they're making a shit ton of money off of this. Not to get into conspiracies and shit like that, but
they're
it's
80%
obvious.
true.
It's obvious. Like I have a client working with right now who has stage 4 lung cancer, and we're actually making significant improvements through his medication and through the food, which, I'm hoping that we can get him on here one day.
I got to tell you about Renee.
But he told me when he was first diagnosed, they found out it was stage 4. He didn't want to go through chemo, radiation, immunotherapy. But there's an experimental drug called Tagrisso, and it's a pill that's designed for his case of non-small cell lung cancer. So when he was talking to the one doctor about the medication he had to get on, he said that when the doctor pulled up the chart and saw it said stage 4 terminal, he said, "I shit you not, the son of a bitch smirked."
What?
And and so I'm like, well, why? Like, are you sure? He's like, no, I thought I was going crazy, but he literally smirked when he saw it because when he wrote the prescription, it's $13,000 for a 30-day supply.
And he's getting paid on that.
He's getting paid.
Bro.
Luckily, this client's insurance is covering it 100%, which is great. But so 2 things. One, imagine if it wasn't. 30 days, supply $13,000. How the hell are you going to pay for that? And then this doctor is smiling because he knows he's about to make a great payday. It's ridiculous.
Just for that month.
Just for the month.
Just for one
Just
one patient.
One little signature, and you just made $13,000.
I got
whatever your cut of it is.
Did I tell you about Renee? She's one of my clients. She's not allowed to use the word healed in what she does because of everything that whatever. But her son was autistic nonverbal at 15. And she cleaned his food. She cleaned up his diet, like to the point where she's ordering food from overseas because there's so many contaminants here.
Yes.
And he speaks now like 4 different languages. He's a master journeyman.
Wow.
He's like 33 years old, right? You would never tell. Renee has the access to a Rife machine. And have you heard of these? So these Rife machines are... They give frequencies. They put frequencies through your body. You hold on to a couple of electrodes, and it does this. And she is seeing cancer patients cancer-free because of this stuff. But the guy that invented this machine, his whole lab was ransacked, burned to the ground by guess who?
Yep.
The who.
Right?
But even just the food part with that, there's a lot. I've sent him and all of our coaches studies. Every time I come across them and I read it, make sure obviously it's peer reviewed and it's verifiable. I'll send it off. I'm like, hey, this is something we need to consider. But there's so many studies showing that proper nutrition can help even with, mental illness, with chronic depressive disorders, schizophrenia, bipolar, eating disorders, and then autism.
Yeah.
Certain forms of autism. It's not a cure-all, right? We can't claim that. But it should sound a little bit obvious that proper nutrition, which is not fucking McDonald's, every day after school or Lucky Charms for breakfast, is going to help with these things.
Well, even the stuff we think is healthy. I remember when we got really clean on the nutrition, I was just eating all the chicken and rice in the world.
Yeah.
That's what we did. The further away I could stay from barcodes, that was my rule. The further away from barcodes, the better. And that led to even us, we got chickens on our property and we're getting eggs from our birds, not from the store.
Tastes way better.
Way better.
Way better.
And even when you went on your trip just recently, the food that you were eating was even cleaner.
Yeah. I did not bloat at all.
Yeah.
In fact, I was bloated the first 2 days when I got there, and I couldn't figure out why. Well, that's because I stopped drinking actually Premier Protein.
Yeah.
Premier Protein is what made me bloated. I didn't know. I had no idea.
Yeah, we had to get rid of ours too.
Yeah, so I didn't know, and so I switched to Fairlife now. So a lot of you guys, if you guys are bloated on especially certain whey proteins or certain proteins, you might want to consider at least maybe turning into more of a plant-based. It's not the best source of protein, I'm going to be honest with you,
It's not a complete protein.
It's not a
and you can't make all the changes in the same day.
Yeah, I mean, it's not. So it takes some time.
I don't think Fairlife is paying us, but I do like their stuff.
It tastes like chocolate milk.
Yeah, their stuff's great.
Yeah,
it's great.
Okay, so now fast forward to, so you work with me all the way through pregnancy. You had the most healthiest pregnancy. The baby is healthy. And the cool thing about this, though, right, and this is something that I've shared with a lot of my clients in the past, and I said one of the reasons why I like coaching someone during pregnancy is because once you're done having the baby, the very next day, your mindset is it's already, okay, like, what's my next meal? It's like you're already meal prep. I remember you meal prep literally day 2. You're, yep, coach, I'm back on it. I'm like, cool. And I think it's not.
You were trying to make me wait till day 4. I'm like, no.
Yeah. Sometimes we're like, hey, remember you're a human being. You can relax. You don't have to be robotic with it. But if you feel better doing it, why not? I was still meal prepping when we came home with the baby.
Yeah.
I'm getting 2 hours of sleep, and it's 3 a.m, and I'm washing bottles, warming up milk, giving it to my wife, and I got to eat. I could eat whatever the hell I want. Yeah. But I make eggs and some oatmeal or cream of wheat.
The biggest thing that I want to point out, it's not just about health. It's not just about how you look. It's not just about, the baby health or your health or anything like that. It's the routine for me.
Yes.
It's the routine for me. Because you've already had the routine before. You have the baby, and guess what? You're back on it, right?
Yeah.
It's just like brushing your teeth.
Yeah, even now, in my kitchen at home, there are like 4 chicken thighs and a bucket of rice. Yeah. It's just all I eat anymore. Like yesterday's breakfast was 10 egg whites and chicken thigh, and I'm not on show prep right now. It's just, and you should see what Jerem eats. Kid's a 1.5 years old, and we are trying to get him to eat carbs. Like, it is a struggle. He will have his Okios yogurt every day.
Yeah. My son does the same thing. My son does the same thing.
He's all about, he loves his protein and stuff, and we're like, please eat some carbs.
Yes. Do you want mac and cheese? Like, please eat something.
Oh, we have to mix meat in with the mac and cheese to get him to eat it. He's such a carnivore.
My little one doesn't eat mac and cheese. Right? Yeah. So it's kind of tough sometimes to bring him out. Yep. But he's a good eater. He has, veggies and steaks.
I mean, I want Mila to eat. Just I want her to be a kid and enjoy things. But I was actually talking to Nanette about it this morning because my breakfast, I did a cup of egg whites. I did 4 whole eggs, some sourdough bread, and I ate a whole bell pepper, and then I had some feta cheese. Yeah. With it, so I'm just eating it, and
so good.
My wife's just looking at me. She's like, "You look so happy." I'm like, "This is the greatest breakfast.
That
like,
sounds
I
so
love
yummy.
this." But I know, like, when Mila's older, I'm like, it'll be fun. Like, obviously, if she wants Cocoa Puffs, okay, babe, here's some Cocoa Puffs. But it'll be fun if when she's older and she sees like what I'm eating or mom's eating, she's like, "Can I have that?"
I bet you.
Like, I just want to see my daughter come up and just eat a bell pepper.
I bet you she won't want it. We don't buy Cocoa Puffs. It just doesn't live in our house. The kids would be like, "What is this doing here?" We would just scrape off our plate onto his tray. Like, I made a little extra. Here you go. And now he won't. Like, he'll not want what we feed him, even though it's the same as us. He wants to sit in our lap and eat it off our plate. That's how he does it now. But he craves. It is so crazy to me. My first pregnancy, when I was eating all this crap, my daughter then, she was like in the amniotic fluid or something, was in her programming. She ate like I did when I was pregnant. She still does, and she's 18.
I love that.
When I fixed my diet, I was like, my second pregnancy, I said no sugar. I didn't eat any sugar, and I'll never forget my daughter trick-or-treating when she's 3. And she's got a cucumber in one hand because we just left the house, right? And she just walked in with her bag in her other hand, and she's looking at the candy trays from people's houses. She doesn't even perceive that it's edible. She just looks at it, no, and eats her cucumber. And the one bag of candy she did get was a bag of goldfish. And that was it. Now, she didn't want candy. She doesn't even perceive it as like something that could go in her body. And even now, she's 16 and she's like that.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
We pass it on not only by our example, but I think there's some programming in there.
100%.
Yeah.
And that's lead me to the next questions or topics. Let's talk about your emotional journey.
Yeah.
From being pregnant to having a baby. I know you had some hormones after, and you immediately got back on essentially prep, right? And trying to cut the weight, trying to get lean. And before we do the show in October, what was that journey like? Because I know you and Richard were prepping at the same time. How do you even
don't recommend
do that?
How was that?
How do you even do that with a 3-4 month old baby while
with
you guys
help?
That's a lot.
With help,
you can't be like, babe, I'm on prep. I need you to take him because well, so am I.
So am I. Yeah, he did a show in April, which is months after the baby was born, and I was trying to shoot for April, and as much as I don't want to say it was a kick to the gut because I didn't want to get on stage when I wasn't ready. It was like a bit of a letdown. I let myself kind of gripe about it for 3 seconds, and I was like, well, shit, I wanted to get on that stage. All my friends are getting on that stage, and I'm backstage. Oh, well, okay, it's not time, let's prep, right? Like, that wasn't the most emotional part. I think that the hardest part was when, I don't know if it was the hardest part or the most emotional part. It was just that day we were doing that stupid shark. Hate that machine.
What?
Pit
shark.
Pit
shark. Pit shark.
Pit shark, yeah.
I still hate that machine, but I do it because it makes my butt look good. So
Yes.
I'm on that pit shark, and I remember talking to you about my 16-year-old or my 14-year-old daughter.
I think I remember this conversation. Yeah.
That's what got me to cry through that machine. Like, that's what pushed me into that dark place where I was just making my legs shake and falling over after. Is she's one that has picked up some of my earlier habits of the emotional eating and all of that. And, you know, it is so hard as a mom to say, let's help you get healthier without ostracizing you and without making you feel guilty about who you are and loving you, but also saying, let's hold a standard and make you a healthier person. They have to want it, right? And I was on the treadmill that morning because it was like 45 minutes of cardio first thing in the morning, and then it's an hour of lifting and 45 minutes of more cardio in the afternoon.
Yeah, it was a lot of cardio, yeah.
But I was watching her, and she was pushing it. And when you see this every day as a coach. You watch someone go to that dark place and push it. You know what it's like, but because you've been there. But as a coach, for you to hold the container while someone just they push so hard that the screaming is coming out and the tears are coming out, and it's emotional because all of these stories that we keep with us in the vessels of our body come out when we squeeze the muscle. Yeah. Right. And I was pushing with my legs, and you know, I go into a lot of emotion code stuff and all of this, and I know that your right and left leg represent your mom and your dad, and any locked up feelings that you have with them, when you push, those will come out, and as it'll come up with you as a parent. And I was doing that pit shark and thinking about my daughter, who was in my home gym with me that morning. She was doing the row bike, and we were watching a CrossFit competition, and she looked up at me and she's like, Mom, I think I want to compete. I think I want to like do a competition. I don't know if it's CrossFit or a bodybuilding or whatever, but I think I want to compete. And to sit and watch her made this bikini competition the most important thing in my life. It made every single stupid day of prep the most important thing in my life. Not to win on stage. It wasn't to win on stage. It was to finish. It was to get there. It was to compete. It was to say, I'm doing this with you.
Did you see a lot of yourself in your daughter in that moment? You know, similar eating habits, and then you made the decision, like you wanted to compete, and then for her to say, that's almost like you're going back in time and watching yourself do it.
Man, I never said that at 14. Yeah. I was so sick at 14. If I had started at 14 or as any of my kids' age, I would have been light years ahead. I would have extended my life. I would have added health to my life and vitality to my life. And even though I might never do a bikini competition again. And that's okay with me. I was a milestone that I wanted. I thought at one point I would do 3 just because I wanted to place and I wanted to win and I wanted to go pro. I've decided that other things as far as health are more important to me.
100%.
Right?
Doing competition is not the most healthy.
No, it's not
yeah, your coaches will tell you that. Any bikini coach will tell you that it's not healthy.
Right off the bat.
I mean, you look at these competitors, and I mean, yes, they look phenomenal, but I mean, you can attest to it. People don't know the behind the scenes.
No, they don't know what it takes.
The cardio, the mental, I mean, just the physical exhaustion, the emotional exhaustion, the last thing I want to do is wake up and sit on my bike and do an hour of cardio before I eat breakfast.
Right.
And then when I eat breakfast, it's just a cup of egg whites. That's it. And then maybe some spinach with it.
Richard cried when you gave him rice that day. He had no carbs for 2 weeks. And he literally, he's cried like 4 times in my life that I've known him. Yeah. And that day he got rice.
Yeah.
Was when he cried, I can eat carbs again.
Yeah.
Seriously, it's rough.
People see the pictures online of like Chris Bumstead or any of the bikini competitors or any of these people.
Yeah, and you follow them?
Like, God, I want to look like that so bad. I'm like, you look like that for a few days.
Yeah.
And it's just a shit ton of pictures being taken, so you have a bunch of content.
Yep.
But to get to that point, it is not healthy. You do not feel good.
No.
On our off
season,
season,
put a smile on and hold back the tears when you're on that stage.
On our off season, we look at our photos and we're like, dude, I cannot wait to get back to that point. But I know when we're back to that point, we're like, holy
There's
shit,
a cost.
I cannot wait for this to be over. I just want to be able to I just want to be able to eat, like food.
Yeah.
And feel full again and just relax.
Yeah.
But you can't, you have to push so hard. It's almost like you are in a fight or flight mode at that point.
Yeah.
It's not healthy.
Totally are. No, it's
People
not.
think it is, the sport is not healthy.
Off season is my favorite. My absolute favorite, because I've got the discipline. I was thinking about this morning. I have the discipline of working out. I have the discipline of eating healthy, right? I have the discipline of getting to a goal. I always like to have a health goal, right? Whether it's a competition or whether it's hey, I want to get my mile under 8 minutes or whatever it is. I want to be shooting for a thing. But off season is great, because when for me, I think there are people that go into off season and yo-yo real high and then real low, because they've got this body dysmorphia of I don't look like that right now, so I must be fat, when their body fat percentage is 18, and they're doing fine. And then they plummet. But my goal was to be off season. I want to be able to run with my kids. I want to be able to, you're going to think I'm a little crazy, but maybe not. If doomsday were to happen and I need to grab my kids and run and my life depends on it, I got to be able to run with heavy stuff in my hands, right? I have to be able to, be mentally stable enough to make right decisions.
Exactly.
I have to be healthy in my brain and in my guts. And that's why I love that you guys do blood work all the time, because the blood will tell the story of everything.
Yes.
Right? I need to be hormonally stable to be able to make good decisions for my family. And my body needs to function in such a way that I can show up and I can deal with a late night or two and my kid can stay up late or whatever. It's crazy how often we take for granted the resilience of our bodies. Because when we can't do something because we have a bum knee, suddenly our days are completely different.
Yep.
Yeah.
I want to go back to your 14-year-old.
Yeah.
Right. The day that she decided to make that goal, how cool was that feeling? I mean, obviously it was an emotional feeling, but I think it was such a cool feeling because wow, my kids are seeing this.
Yeah.
They want to go to the gym. They want to eat healthy. They want to
be competitive.
They want to be a competitor or whatever competition they want to do. That feeling is gold.
It is. Because you know how many forces are exerting on our kids? When your kids start to go to school and the influence of their friends, the influence of their teachers, and it's not like you want to be a control freak. You want them to experience all different points of view, but you also want them to take away the good pages from your books, right? And so when my daughter at 14 says, I want to compete inside, I'm like, thank you that I left her something good. Thank you that she picked up on something. It was just immense gratitude. And I tried not to overreact and be like, yes, let's stoke this fire. Let's go. Because I didn't want to push her away. But it was just such a relief because my daughter lives in a situation where she's getting not just the perspectives of her friends from school and the perspectives of her teachers and the other people she hangs out with. Every other weekend, my daughter is with other parents. She's got her biological father and her stepmom that she's with. And I don't know enough about their perspectives on health to understand if she's getting a positive message. Maybe she is, maybe she's not. Yeah. I just don't know, right? All I know is that I have found in my kids' bedrooms empty candy wrappers under their pillowcases. I have found empty candy wrappers in their drawers. I have seen my daughter swipe her card at the vending machines at the schools for buying garbage, different daughters, but I've seen it happen. So anytime that I see my kids take what I consider to be a giant step in the right direction, I just pray to God with gratitude that something that I'm doing is working.
And the only thing that you can do is lead by example.
Amen.
Like you can't force your kids to be healthy, to play in sports, to do any of that stuff in health if you're not willing to do the same.
Yeah, it's hypocritical. They see right through that. People are smart.
Well, my mom told me that I have to go to the gym. My mom's overweight.
Yeah, right?
That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they don't want to say anything to their parents, obviously, because you want to be respectful. But I think for us now, we don't have to talk about health.
Yeah.
It's our lifestyle.
Exactly.
Literally. We don't have to talk about, he doesn't know any better. I mean, I'm not saying...
Or any worse.
I mean, I'm not saying he doesn't have, kid foods and things like that.
Yeah.
He does, but he doesn't know any better. No. He goes out and eat with us.
Yeah.
Like normal.
I mean, my dad did that for me, right? He was the one who was playing soccer. He's in the gym. He looked like a bodybuilder. You know, I remember my dad was always in shape.
Yeah.
And so being little, I'm like, I always wanted to be like that. And that's why I wanted to start working out and start eating, you know, as best as I could. But as a kid, like, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
But he didn't force it on me. If I wanted a kid's cuisine, frozen TV dinner from Harmon's for dinner, he would give it to me. That's fine.
Man, we were too poor for that.
But I mean, it's not the greatest food in the world. But, you know, just because he didn't force it on me, and he just did it. And then when I was like, hey, Dad, you know, can I go to the gym with you? Like, can you start helping me? He was like, I think 11 or 12. He's like, yeah, you know, come with me. But he's like, I just understand this is just to help you learn how to lift.
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to grow muscle. Like, you're not going to be able to do any of that because you're still young. Your body can't do that. But come with me and start learning it. And if you like it, cool. If you don't, that's okay.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay. And now I've talked about all the time, every hobby I have is because of him. The way I eat, the way I do things is because of him. It's not because he forced it on me. It's just, I was just exposed to it. So that's what I'm going to do with Mila. If she wants to go to the gym, great. If she wants to eat the way I do, great. If she doesn't, like, that's okay.
Yeah.
Do what you want. Like, of course, I'll be there to try to guide her a little bit, but it's ultimately her decision if she's going to do it.
I watched my mom fill up gallons of, like, old milk jugs and with water, and she would be up at 4 a.m. doing aerobics with her gallon jugs in her hand. My sister was my next most poignant example. Her hair was never dry. She was swimming all the time. And even now, she lives in California and swims in the San Francisco Bay almost every morning.
Cold as hell.
Yeah, right?
I bet it feels great.
And there's sea lions like 10 feet from you. You don't even know. But those were two examples that I looked up to. And I have to say that health as a child was not a huge priority in my family. Yeah. We had to invent it.
Yeah, most families, it's not that way.
Yeah.
Most families doesn't. Yeah. And we see it more now because we do this for a living. You know what I mean? So fast forward to your show day. But before we get to that point, you were posing with Marjorie. And I remember your very, very, very first posing video.
It was such a train wreck. It was such a train wreck.
We all start somewhere.
A lot of my clients are listening to this right now. If you are our athlete, you know what we're talking about.
Yeah, imagine being thrown into a ballroom dance competition and you know nothing. And you're stepping on everyone's toes and you're messing everything up.
That's what we tell you, pose every day.
I did.
And
every day.
Practice.
And you were making fun of yourself, and it was some funny ass moments. And then gradually you started to feel like you belong on stage. Yeah. Your stage presence when you did your individual routine was phenomenal. I mean, your confidence was there. And then I remember we were backstage going into the finals, and I knew that was a huge goal that you wanted to achieve. And I came up to you and we had a one-on-one. I'm like, hey, Marianne,
I can't cry. My tan will get messed up.
So we were backstage. And this was right before she came out for her individuals. And I was so proud of you, the fact that you even step on stage. You just had a baby 10 months before that. Yeah. And you prepped and you grind and you even saw all of your friends did all the other shows that you couldn't get to do. But that was fine because you had your own spotlight. And I felt like that was, everything happened for a reason, right? And I remember I was backstage going into the night show, and I said, hey, Marianne, I want to talk to you for a second. So I looked her in the eye, and when we had a one-on-one, I'm like, look, I'm proud of you. I said, you've done the best you can. This is not about being, not having a medal, but you show up for your kids. This is you showing up for you, for Richard, and for your family, and for your kids. And then you got emotional backstage.
I did. You're going to make me do it again, too.
Yeah. And because I think those words, like, sometimes when someone talks to me like that, and I'm like, man, why can't my parents say that?
Yeah, I just thought that on the way up here. I was like, every time that we got together, there were some check-ins I was afraid to do because I know that I got fluffy or whatever. And I remember that time I checked in. I was like, I just ate a Take 5 bar, yo. I feel like the worst person in the world. And every time I met with you in person or every time I checked in, I felt so safe. I felt so safe to be who I was. I felt so safe to be a human that made mistakes every once in a while. And I felt like there was no fluffy praise either. It was all genuine. Like it was, you're doing so great and here's why. And it didn't feel like pandering or anything like that. But I also knew that I could say, hey, I messed up. And he wouldn't be like, yeah, you're such a moron. It would be like,
you know what, this is what happens. I'll never forget that conversation when I gave in and had that Take 5 bar, and I felt like I had gone back to square one of bulimia days. Mm-hmm. And I was letting food regulate my emotions. And we had a conversation, and you said, what were you feeling right before? And I said, I was feeling out of control. I was feeling stressed. I was feeling like my schedule especially was out of my hands, and too much to do in too little time. And the question that you asked me that has repeated on my mind every time that there's an option between a coping mechanism that's healthy and unhealthy was, did the Take 5 bar fix that? Mm-hmm. And I was like, hot damn, it made it worse. Yeah. Right? Mm-hmm. I still have all this schedule stress. I still have the checklist of stuff I need to do. Mm-hmm. And now I'm 70 calories in on dirty calories that I feel guilty about.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then you just said, okay, let's make a plan then. If we know this isn't working, what can we do better? Mm-hmm. Yep. And I was like, okay, cool. And I still use that checklist system even now. There's a little checklist on the way I manage my time now is I do a brain dump of everything I need to do. I put little boxes next to it, and I put stars next to 6 of the boxes. And that's all I get to do for the day. Mm-hmm. Anything else is a bonus. And I think about that every time. It's either this or make a stupid decision. And I choose the healthy coping mechanism every time.
And I think a lot of that has to do with asking the right question.
And you're such a master at that.
Yeah, I mean, because we've been doing this for a while.
You've done it. Yeah, you've been doing it for a minute. And yeah, I'm not your first rodeo.
I'm not gonna lie. Before I would be like, why would you eat that? Mm-hmm. Now you got to do 45 minutes of cardio the next day instead of 30,
that's so punitive.
Right? But that's a mentality that we all had at one point. Yep. And then we realized, oh shit, like we're not just personal trainers here.
No.
Yeah.
We have to fix your psychology behind the food. Yeah. What is your emotion? I think the question that I always ask, and I know a lot of my clients listen to this right now, and even Nick too, that anytime that our client eats something, beyond their meal plan or whatever, mm-hmm. we never ridicule you at all, right? We always ask, what was your, how do you feel?
Yeah, what was going on? What was the emotion you felt?
What was your mindset?
Yeah, so the next time you feel that, we can try to catch it. Yep. And if you slip up again, that's okay.
Yeah.
But
it's not a punishment of an hour to have a cardio the next day.
No, right? and the whole guilt versus reward thing, you eat the Take 5 bar, now you feel guilty. Or you're like, I did so good, I'm going to have it, I'm going to reward myself. But then, that can create a dangerous mindset too. No, it's not a reward. And that's one of the biggest red flags we see in other coaches in this industry. It's been a lot here in Salt Lake. Without I'm going to be giving names, is you have that conversation with them, and they are going to reprimand you, and they're going to make you feel like shit, and you're going to feel worse. They're going to make you do extra cardio. They're going to take food away. Mm-hmm. It's very much a punishment, but that's because they don't have the control either.
Yeah,
they don't know how to be a coach. They don't know how to be a human. How to turn that off.
We hide things from our coaches.
Exactly. So mm-hmm. I mean, if anyone out there, if you have a coach, or just anyone in your life who's going to punish you for making a simple little, it's not even a mistake, just a little moment of look, I was feeling
guilty
off, I had this
pleasure.
Yeah, it is what it is. I mean, we do that. Mm-hmm. I caught myself the other day. We have the bags of Halloween candy, and I had 4 or 5 of the little Kit Kat bars. And for a brief moment, I'm like, shit, dude, I can't be having this. I know I'm off season, but I can't be eating candy. And I was like, okay, wait, when the hell was the last time you had candy?
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know. So I'm like, well, it's okay. I shouldn't have had 4, but I did. That's fine. And then I was able to move on from it. But if I can't do that in the moment and recognize the emotion, how the hell am I going to coach you through that?
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
Well, and then you have to be careful of that, too, because you can justify too far in the other direction. Mm-hmm. Of when's the last time I had candy?
Yeah.
And you're like,
well, you haven't, so you can have 4 more of these.
Right?
No.
Yeah.
And next the whole bag is gone.
Yeah.
I did tell them that, when you see me walk to this portion of the kitchen, will you be like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Again, it's always the questions that we ask. And we know when we have... And we have a lot of our friends are coaches, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And we know who is really good coach. We know who's a really good lifestyle coach. We know who's a really good competition coach, right? And so we know people that can do both, kind of like what we do.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest thing for us is not only asking the right questions, and the reason why we ask those questions, it's because it's not your journey. It's not always physical.
Yep.
Right? We know your physical is going to change. As soon as we optimize your hormones, you follow in the plan, your physical is going to change. Colton knows that.
Yep.
He's like, yeah, I know that.
But the mental and emotional has to change.
The
emotional.
physical is a byproduct.
Yeah, because then a lot of our clients are successful after our program because I'm like, okay, Yo taught me how to do macros. I know how to track. I have the discipline. I have to, you know what I mean? So they don't have to, they don't need me as much anymore. And
along the way, they've learned coping mechanisms and resolved a lot of their demons that they don't have to, necessarily come to us or turn to someone to solve it for them. Yeah. They've already done that work. They've already gone through it. So when they do have that moment of they're feeling something, this is usually when I text Yo or Nick. But now they're like, oh, I can do this.
Yeah. After the show, when you got off stage and you walk out of the side of the school, the hallway, and obviously you saw your family.
Yeah.
So what was that feeling like? Because I
know my first thought.
Okay, what is it?
I'm going to get spray tan on my baby.
Oh, my God.
I ran to my little baby and I picked him up because I felt like we had done this together.
Yeah,
the whole family had done this together. But I scooped up my baby because he's clinging for mama and he covered in spray tan. It's like all over his face and all that because I just picked him up. And I've got a little baby print on my body now.
That's hilarious.
And my husband's like really careful to give kisses because I don't want to turn him brown. But that's the first thing I wanted was my kids, and I brought my kids up on the stage with me. After the whole thing and everyone had dispersed, and I was like, come up here, come get on stage. And being on stage is number one fear in the world, whether you're speaking or posing or whatever it is. But I wanted them to come with me up on the stage because we worked hard together to do this. Yes, I was the one exercising and eating the right food and all that, but they put up with me. They supported it. They sometimes brought me my food and put it in the microwave for me while I was like, whatever I was doing. And as we got on stage together, my favorite picture from that whole event is me standing with my kids, with my baby in my arm. It's not the posing picture. It's not the crown picture. It's the one where my family's all together because we all worked our butts off for this. Yeah. And any achievement, it's like when my daughter plays the trumpet and has her concert, the whole family did that too. And I am really just re-emphasizing to my kids over and over and over again that our family means that we're a team. Yep. And we help each other through stuff. And we pick up when someone, drops something and we find ways to work together instead of against each other. And just that feeling of, it was almost like I could feel it infusing into my kids of this feeling of I could do something like that too. It doesn't have to be
I'm excited for Nick to go through that.
Oh,
I'm really excited for when Mila's
I'm excited for him
to start doing these things.
Yeah, I'm excited for him to go on stage. His daughter's watching him on stage and then walks around the corner and then she runs up to you. Right there, bro, it don't matter if you win first place.
It doesn't. No crown or medal.
I can take dead last, but seeing my daughter just excited.
Yeah.
I don't want to brag, but I took dead last in 2 out of 3.
Wow, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you.
But that was a huge accomplishment on its own.
Not everyone can. The other people sitting on the couch, not ready for the stage.
You're right. You're doing a lot more than a lot of people.
Yeah.
And Colton was the one who mentioned that because at the time, like, I was in the moment, and then Colton was the one who brought it up for me. I'm like, bro, I love seeing you and we run up to you and give you a hug, and he wanted to wear your medals, and that for me right there, I was like,
I passed my crown around.
Oh, dude, that was great, and it was lovely, and I'm excited for Nick to be.
I'm really excited. I mean, she's 6 months old right now, so she's recognizing people. And I walk in the house after work, or I go to pick her up from daycare, and her arms and legs get all tight, and she's kicking and smiling.
So cute.
And in the mornings, I go to wake her up, and she just gets the biggest grin and is giggling and laughing, and her arms are out. And I pick her up, and she's starting to be able to hug too. And I'm like, oh my god! Like, I thought I was a softie before, but my god, I'm a bag of pudding at this point.
So
this is ridiculous.
So you went from pregnant to having a baby to doing your very first show, and then you continue on with me from I think October all the way to like May-ish.
I really wanted to get in and get back to lifestyle.
So we had to. So we had.
How did you find Yo, and what made you want to sign up with him?
I think it was through Marjorie, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. So Marjorie worked with me at the time, and
just with posing.
Well, no. She just was at an office with me. We both had an office
literally worked together.
Yeah.
Okay.
And frankly, I was checking that girl out. That girl, I was like, she always walks like she's on stage, and she always has these cute little heels. And I was like, if you're at rest and you look that good, and like, I'm dedicated to my husband, but damn, you look great.
Sorry, Richard.
Like, I had such a lady crush on her. And I was like, is that even possible for me to look like that off season? Because you look, You look amazing.
She's perfect for wellness division.
Oh my gosh, that girl is
she's crazy.
strong AF.
Yeah, she's
and
strong.
she's the nicest lady.
She is. She's super sweet.
You know, she is the sweetest lady. And I was like, so tell me, like, what is this all about? And I had this like seeds of bikini competition in my brain from before. And so she introduced us, and I was like, well, hot damn, let's freaking go.
Yeah.
And I love that the best part of your business, finding customers, is referral based, because it's, I mean,
99%.
Man, I would go to Yo. Like, anybody that's listening, go see these guys, because like, that is because of the way you coach people and that you understand the mental part of it. That was really important to me.
Yeah.
Is that it wasn't just the physical pushing through. It was your body is a representation of how your mind is behaving.
Right.
What's going on in your brain. And that was the first conversation every time we met was, how are you feeling?
Yeah.
How are you sleeping? You know, and even every check-in was, what was your week like emotionally? And what was your week like? Like, what are your wins this week? And what are we celebrating? And that was so pivotal.
Yeah, it's not just a number.
Yeah, no way.
We don't just look at the weight.
No. Well, and the
No
questions
way.
that we ask, it's not just, did you eat your food? How many times did you go to the gym? Like, it's not just that.
I don't think you ever asked me that. Maybe 2 or 3 times.
We're asking, like, how was your week? What's your stress level? Where's your sleep at? What do you need from me is one of the last questions on our check-in. Like, our check-in, it's detailed.
That was the number one thing that we fought with the most, was stress. Not only that lack of sleep was real, because newborns, whatever.
Yeah, right.
But your stress level was a lot, and you were going through a lot at the time.
There was a lot going
towards
on right there.
prepping with the company that you were working with. It was not doing well, and it was
Freaking
just
nightmare.
it was a lot going on, and that I don't think people understand. I think people underestimate how much stress they have.
I did.
Right? And you did too. I did too. Like when I feel stressed, I'm like, oh, cool. Like, whatever.
Yeah, we pushed through it.
But then I really don't realize how much I actually have until I hit a wall.
But not just
I
that,
hit a
but how
wall.
that stress
He hits me with that all the time. He'll be like, "You're stressed, bro," and I'm like, to me, I'm like, "No, I'm not.
This is normal."
But like to me, it's just less, right? Because
Yeah.
he's like, "Your body says that you should be here, and I
Yeah.
can see that it's here. You're normally
That's
here."
what I was going to
Yeah.
say is people don't understand how the stress actually affects our bodies.
No,
Because
it's the
when
cortisol
you're-
levels and what it does to your.
Well, when you're
Yeah.
getting that lean for a show, I mean, even, getting 7 hours and 55 minutes of sleep can affect you versus 8 hours, right? Like, maybe not that dramatic, but it can. So when we are stressed, you wake up and you weigh yourself, like, what the hell? I'm up 3 pounds?
Yeah,
Like,
and
I
then
followed
you-
everything
you
yesterday.
psych yourself out.
Yeah, and you're trying to, like,
Yeah.
what's going on? I'm like, well, how's your stress? Well, no, I'm fine. I'm like, well, okay, but let's think about, like, what are you dealing with? And you start thinking, you're like, oh my God, okay.
And then not to mention is this. The night before you went to bed, and you're not getting a lot of sleep anyway, you went to the gym. You went hard, right? You were so sore that your body's inflamed. Your muscles are inflamed, which means you're holding more water, more water retention. Like, for example, Jordan, I love you. You're listening to this right now. She sent me a video this morning, or a picture this morning, of her weight. And I was like, I don't know what's going on. My weight's going up or whatever. It's like a pound, right? So then my question was, what did you do yesterday? How did you sleep? And by the way, the picture that she sent me was 4 a.m.
Oh my gosh! Yeah.
Okay, so
Go
she
to
probably
bed.
Obviously.
Stay in bed. What are you doing?
obviously
I'm obsessing.
yeah.
Uh-oh.
Obviously, she went to bed probably around 9 or 10 or whatever. But the fact that she woke up early and I said, "Did you train?" And I think I remember because she sent me her picture yesterday. She trained glute hard. I'm like,
Yeah,
"Did you train
and that's
really
a
hard?
big muscle.
Did you train really hard?" She goes, "Yeah." I'm like, "Okay, you were just
Then
inflamed."
chill. Yeah.
I was
You
talking
just
to one
have
of my
to-
clients, can't remember who the other day, and he was like, dude, every time I work out my legs, my weight goes up like a lot the next day. I'm like,
Oh,
yeah.
mine did too.
That-
Because those are giant muscles.
Yeah, I'm like, that's how it's supposed. Like that's normal.
Yeah.
And I was like, but my weight's going up. Like that's not what we're supposed to be
No.
doing. I'm like, dude, okay,
Can you
like
stop measuring
it's
weight?
it's inflammation. I'm like, the weight doesn't matter. It's as long as the trend is down, that's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, obviously that's stress on your body. So again, we don't understand how stress actually affects
Even
us.
good stress.
Yeah.
I think there's this like zero baseline of stress.
Mm-hmm.
For moms and parents and dads too, especially nursing moms though, the baseline of stress is here.
Oh yeah.
You add a job, a business, entrepreneurship, and your baseline is freaking up here. When normal people's baseline, so your calm is everyone else's freak out, right? Especially as a business owner.
Yep.
Right?
And that's
So-
not even including nutrition,
Oh, then you
dieting,
add all the-
and
yeah.
training. Yeah,
Yep.
that's hard. So when you come out of that show, what was the moment of conversation that you hear your kids say to you? Like, "Mom, I'm so proud of you, Mom."
Yeah.
What did they say? Because I know they say like it's really cool to see their mom up there
Yeah.
from from where you were. They've seen you. They've known you your whole life. Their whole life, obviously.
Yeah.
From the broken, I would say, the broken Marianne in your first marriage to second marriage to stepping on stage, having your kids, to be able to see you.
Yeah. I don't sit down and ask my kids like, "Hey, how cool do you think I am?"
Of course, yeah.
The things that they say though, they'll drop hints, right? And you'll catch on these subtle nonverbal cues and on the expression on their faces and what they're looking at. You know, right after the stage, it's like, "Come on the stage with me, come celebrate with me. Yes, I'm going to get my tan all over you." And the youngest kids are like, "I don't even recognize you. Who are you? Because you're so brown," and all this stuff. But it's the moments when, you know, right after we check in, I'm like, even after the show, I was still practicing my posing, of course, right? And my 8-year-old daughter at the time is coming out, and she's practicing posing, right? She's copying.
I remember that.
You remember that?
I remember that. Yeah.
She's practicing doing the little walk and little strut.
Every time she sent me a video, her daughter walks by.
See her.
Like
it's kind of like when you do your front pose, and he sends it to me. His front pose in the morning, and I see Owie in the background.
Yep. It's those things where they're like, when kids think it's cool enough to copy it, even if they don't say, "Hey, Mom, cool, good job," which they did. They were very, very generous with their words. But the actions spoke louder to me, just like our actions speak louder to our kids. It's when they're copying that. It's when my daughter says, "Tell me about macros. Like how much protein should I be eating?"
Bro, I didn't even ask that question until I was closer to 30 years old.
Same.
Are you kidding me? What are macros?
Yeah,
What?
yeah.
No.
When my daughter asks, how do you measure protein, right? And I just had a conversation with my now 9-year-old, and she's got a toothache, and I'm like, "How much water are you drinking?" And I'm repeating these questions that you repeat to me, right? Like, how much sleep are you getting?
You'd
How
be
much
like,
water are you
Sounds
drinking?
like me and Annette when she's like, "I have a headache," and she's like, "Don't ask." I'm like,
How much water have you
How
had
much
today?
water have you had today? She's like, "I've had enough." I'm like, "No, you haven't."
Right?
She knows it's coming.
Yeah, so I'm teaching my daughter how to measure on a jar. How much do you weigh? You weigh 60 pounds. You need to have at least 60 ounces of water, you know, and that's how much this is. And she's like, whoa. And it's those moments when they ask the questions that you ask me that I feel like I'm winning.
Yeah. That's huge.
Yeah.
So, last and final question. Oh, we do? For real?
Make this the longest question.
No, this is going to be
you can think of.
Oh,
Wow.
I mean, we have some good stuff. It's great.
we're doing good.
So, thank you guys for listening this far so far. I know a lot of my clients, they love watching the YouTubes more than the Spotify. I listen to Spotify because I'm here.
You can watch on Spotify now.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you can actually watch
unless
on
you're
there.
Joe Rogan and you don't want to do that because you're the boss.
Yeah. The last question that I want to ask is the advice from where you came from, and I'm talking about before pregnancy, going through such a hard life with your first marriage, going into the second one, and doing your first show. What is your advice for all the women out there that are maybe have a similar situation as you do?
Can we get a little woo woo on that, like a little bit?
You can get as woo as you
You
want.
can-
You can do whatever. It's wrong.
So first of all, get a coach, right? Because your coach will see things that are blind to you. They're your blind spots by definition for a reason. You can't see them and you don't know what they are. So get a coach. Second of all, there's a book that I tell everyone to read, even if they're not on a bodybuilding journey or a health competition or whatever it is. There's this book called Feelings Buried Alive Never Die. I'm a big believer, and I think I can go from believing to knowing now that whatever we experience physically is a manifestation of what we're experiencing emotionally. Yeah. If my traps are always hurting, or there was one time I was working out my back and I was doing the rows on the machine, and it would make me cry. And I couldn't even figure out why. And I was like, why am I like emotional? I'm not feeling sad. Nothing happened today, but why are tears coming out of my face? I know I'm not pulling that hard, right? And so I went back to this book and I was like, oh, it's because I feel my back, I'm the backbone. I felt alone in providing for my family. My first financial experience in my first marriage was awful, and I felt like I was the sole provider. I was carrying the load. I had the weight of the world on my back. Yeah. And emotionally, it would show up when I would squeeze those back muscles and it would make tears come out of my eyes. And it came in from everything to breaking my ankle, and feeling unsupported, and, to skin breakouts or nosebleeds or whatever it is. It was my body screaming at me like, this is not okay. Yeah. You're not broken, but you're dealing with things that are, and you're better than that. Yep.
And so when I went through and I worked out on those pieces of my body, so when I go through the script, I realized how much my body was carrying. My gut, when I had my babies, I had so many stretch marks, you guys. Like, it to the point where I remember sitting pregnant, and the stretch marks come from when your skin literally tears.
Yeah.
It rips apart and it itches like hell. And I'm sitting there on the toilet scratching my gut just like this basketball for probably 20 minutes, to a point where now it's scarring. And then I go through several more pregnancies, more stretch marks. And some women, I don't know how they do it, they get through pregnancy with no stretch marks.
I know,
like,
some don't.
But I got these tiger stripes, and it took so much of the internal work to get proud of them rather than embarrassed by them.
I actually had a lot of conversation about that with you.
Yeah.
I remember.
That was hard because I had a lot of loose skin, and because the skin had been stretched so much, it was like, it was saggy, and I was like, do I have to glue it to stuff to get it to stay in place on stage, and who knows, and whatever. But I got to a point where I was very proud of them, because every stretch mark was a scar that meant a baby kicked me, or I had baby hiccups, or I was able to bring a life into this world, and became very proud of them. To the point
just see what your body can do.
Yeah.
Like, I remember
do you know how crazy cool our bodies are?
I'm telling my wife. I mean, obviously, you feel like garbage through the pregnancy, but I kept telling her, like, this is amazing. Like, my body will never go through anything like that. Like, it's been through hell.
Yeah.
But I mean, I can't say I grew a human being and then pushed him out, and then it's my job to keep him alive. Like,
I'm going to feed him with my body and nurture him with my body and comfort them.
Like, what your body can do, what the female body can do is incredible.
Awesome.
Us guys, I mean, we don't got shit. we don't have anything.
We think we're strong.
No.
I'm going to tell you this right now, we're not.
My wife had the nurses the day Mila was born film me saying I'm never going to complain about anything again, because I have, like, I got nothing.
We got nothing, bro.
Yeah.
Right, your knee hurts?
No.
Aw.
And the crazy thing about
I'm
that,
like,
the crazy thing about
dude.
that, the next day, like after our wives have had the baby, guess what? The next day, we just got to take care of the baby. There's nothing, like, we don't have to.
There's this meme that's like, when a woman gives birth without an epidural, she'll finally understand what it's like to be a man that has the flu.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I can't complain about
Facts.
I can't complain about anything, because, like, my body didn't change, and you know, and I remember at one point my wife actually she caught herself feeling like a certain negative way after the baby, or while she was pregnant, and she got mad at me indirectly because my body wasn't changing. But hers
She's like,
was.
could you have some sympathy, Doritos, please?
Yeah, but I mean, it was because I'm bulking, and so, like, I'm growing, but she's like, you're just growing, and your
That
body's
was
changing
hard.
the way you want. She's like, but mine's growing because your daughter is just getting bigger and bigger, and I'm feeling worse and worse. Like, kind of made her mad. I'm like, but look at it. Like, well, look what the end result is. You know, like, this is incredible. My job throughout this, I don't get to do anything. Like, I'm literally just sitting here, like, just diddling my thumbs, like, hey, like, what can I do to help?
Yeah.
If there's nothing I can do, then I can't do anything.
And I remember watching Richard get his 6-pack while I'm growing this beer keg.
Like,
Like,
are you kidding me?
it was like,
Yeah. So I know we didn't really touch base.
I
on
want
that.
to. I have a piece I want to share, but
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Well,
go ahead.
to the moms specifically,
Yes.
who are wondering, I'm not going to say that you have to get in a bikini competition.
No.
You do what you want to do. If that's a milestone you want to touch, go for
Just
it.
pick something.
I would say pick a thing that you want to go for that you don't currently have. What that will do is it will force you to get uncomfortable, and it will push you outside your comfort zone. And that's a place where you can thrive, because you cannot grow if you're comfortable all the time. The second thing is this. If you're a mom, your kids are watching. And I remember days when I had to rely on my kids to help the other kids so that I could get to the gym. Or I had to thank God for our nanny. I don't give Chelsea enough credit, because she meal prepped for us, and she watched the kids for us, and she was there for us. Like, it was Richard and you and Chelsea that really put me on that stage, and the kids. And don't be afraid to ask for help either. There's those little kids in our neighborhood that are like mommy's assistant, and you can bring them in for $5 an hour and they'll play with your kids with you. Like, it's an incredible idea. But your kids are watching every single thing that you do. They don't care as much about your words as they do what do you do after 8 p.m. at night. Do you do what you say and go to bed, or do you have a snack when you tell them they can't? Or are you, when you tell them to go out and run a few laps, are you doing the same thing? Like, they'll watch. And I know that there are sometimes when we put up the example and our kids don't follow it, they have their choice, right? But in the back of their heads, your behavior will never be the excuse.
if they make their own choices, they will. But in the back of their head, they're going to have this thing of like, okay, I'm making this choice consciously. I know what the example is, and I know that if I deviate from the standard, I can get back to the standard. Not to mention that you have an obligation as a parent to be there for your kids. You have to be at their weddings. You need to be there when they have their first kid. You need to be there and not in a wheelchair, if at all possible. God forbid that some accident happened. But you have a responsibility to do everything in your power with the temple that you've been given. Because that's the one thing that's going to stick with you your whole life. Yeah. So take good care of it.
It's not selfish to take care of yourself. Like that's one thing we run into a lot with parents, especially moms, unfortunately is I don't have time because I got to take care of the kids and I don't want to tell them no to something or like, we can't get McDonald's afterward. What if they get it and then I have to eat my food? It's like, well, no, it's selfish to not take care of your health.
It is.
It's incredibly selfish. And I understand there's certain underlying health conditions that can come up no matter what, and that's fine. But if you're consciously choosing to just not take care of yourself because you're sacrificing yourself for your kids, that's backwards.
No, they'll watch you and they'll repeat that.
Yes, your kids will thank you for taking care of yourself because then in the end you were there for them. Yeah. And you can take care of them. Like my dad would go to the gym 3-4 in the morning to make sure he could still go. Yeah. And then he was able to show up the rest of the time. He worked like 2 or 3 jobs. He did what he had to do. Yeah. But if he didn't,
I don't know what would happen if my mom didn't wake up at 4 a.m. with her water-filled milk jugs. Right now, she's 80 years old. My mom is thriving. 80, and she drives to my house every Wednesday morning at the butt crack of dawn, 7 a.m. to teach my kids piano lessons. And I want her there. I want her teaching my kids. I want her to see her great grandkids.
Yeah, but your kids are seeing that they have a support system. They have a family, right? It takes a village to raise a family, but there's a lot of people out there who don't have that. Yeah. But seeing that your kids can come to you, to dad, to grandma, to whomever, and they know even if they mess up, there might be a consequence or two, but hey, this is a safe place. Like, come tell me, let's learn together. Let's show them actions speak louder than words, and that you're going to be there to support them. So then now they're like, no matter what, mom and dad are going to be there. Yeah. Grandma's going to be there. Like, I know I have everything I need. And then they're going to start doing the same thing. They're going to start helping each other. And then they're going to grow up and they're going to do the same thing for their kids. And it's just going to be this nice, true family dynamic. Yeah. That's how it's supposed to be.
Well, and I want to say this about the village thing. We hear this slogan all the time, it takes a village to raise kids, and that is true, but there's something that's even underlying that is even more true. Your village will raise your kids. It doesn't just take a village, but whoever you're surrounding yourself, those people will be contributing to raising your kids. So be stupid careful.
Positive,
who you bring in your village.
Yeah, it could be a positive or negative. Yeah.
Exactly. Whatever's in your village will raise your kids. So be careful with what's in your village.
Well, the same way we choose to surround ourselves with who we do, if you hang out with people who drink and party and smoke all the time, you're gonna fall into it. But if you hang out with
friends' parents, they're awesome. Yeah. I would love Cheryl and Ryan to be examples for my kids. I love Josh and Aubrey being examples to my kids. Like
the entrepreneurs, the business owners, the people who are working hard, who again they're doing what they preach or practicing what they preach. Yeah. You surround yourself with that. Not only are you going to thrive, but again, like you said, your kids are going to as well.
My kids know who you guys are, right? And I'm like, watch them, watch their stuff, follow them. Not just because we need the extra follows, but I want your influence. You know what a high medal of honor it is for anyone to say, I would trust you alone with my child? Like, I would trust your influence on my kid.
No,
there's
having a baby, I'm like, oh, yeah.
Right? You wouldn't trust it with anybody.
No.
Yeah.
No.
It's we're very selective on that. Yeah. Yep. Here's a good one for you. If you can go back in time. I know, I love this question.
I know where this is
going. If you can go back in time and talk to that broken Marianne, whether that's within your first marriage or before that, if you can go back in time, knowing where you are today, and you're doing really well, right? I don't know if you guys know this. I'm going to ring her bell really quick. I don't know if that's the right phrase to say, but she is a professional, what would you call it, speaker?
Or speaker trainer,
Yeah, speaker trainer.
I speak and I train other speakers.
Yeah. So she does really well on stage. Like, I was so impressed. The first time I met you, I'm like, Hickman. I know that last name. Because I was training your husband at the time. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's your wife, bro? He goes, yeah, bro, that's my. I'm like, okay, cool. You were so pregnant.
I was
on
so
stage.
pregnant.
Up there, you're running around. You're getting the crowd hyped up. I was like, dude, I don't even have that much energy.
She was like, jumping around. I'm like, what is going on right now? The baby's gonna pop out anytime.
Man, that's what we were going for, man.
Like, it was crazy. It was crazy. So if you can go back to that Marianne, what would you say?
there's so many versions of her that needed help. But I love her. I don't want to poo-poo on my previous self. I think oftentimes people do that. Yeah. And they're like, oh, man, I was such an idiot, you know. Well, maybe, but give yourself some grace. You know, be good to yourself because she's still listening. I think I would go back to that girl who sat down in front of that TV with the ice cream carton where it really started, the relationship with food. And I would just look her in the eye, grab the ice cream, put it behind my back, and give her the sweetness that she needed. Mm-hmm. You know, I'd be like, you just lost your best friend. You were just at her house playing with her dog's newborn puppies and daring to play Jumanji together, wondering what would happen, you know, and now you don't get to do that anymore, and you'll probably never speak to her family again. And this is going to be hard. I'm not going to lie. This is going to be one of the hardest things you go through, and it doesn't feel fair that you're going through it so young. Mm-hmm. However, because you're going through it so young, Marianne, I want you to pay attention to how your mom shows up for you. I want you to pay attention to how your mom dropped everything so she could drive you to the funeral and then drive you to the graveside service and get you wherever you needed to go. I want you to pay attention to the people in your community that come together. I want you to pay attention to the helpers that are out there because they're there and they're waiting. And I know how much this sucks right now, believe me. And I got to tell you, girl, it's not the last time something is going to suck in your life. Mm-hmm. There will be more. And sometimes it will be worse than this, and sometimes it will be easier than this. However, your success rate is 100%. You have lived through everything that life has thrown at you, and you will continue to do so. Look for the sweetness in your life. Grab a pen and paper and write down the things that you're grateful for. The gratitude energy is the highest vibrational energy that you can imagine. And I know that it doesn't make sense to be grateful for anything right now because you feel like life sucks, and there are parts of it that do. Mm-hmm. But if you can end your day with writing down 5 things that you're grateful for, you have both your mom and your dad. You have a beautiful, comfortable home. Not everyone has that. You have siblings that are showing up for you. You have sisters and brothers who love you. You have your health, and you have tomorrow, and Brittany doesn't. What are you going to do with it? Wow. If you're so sad that she's gone, how are you going to make the lives of the people around you better tomorrow? No. Because she can't.
Yep. That's beautiful. So that brought me back to the whole my family thing. Mm-hmm. To be clear, I don't know if I actually talk a lot about this on the podcast. I told you guys the missing airlines, Malaysia Airlines that went missing was my uncle. He's the flight attendant in there.
And I didn't know that.
Yeah. What? I never told you that. It's actually, there's a Netflix series called MH370 because that is the exact flight number.
That's a flight number.
Yeah. Flight number. And my uncle is the flight attendant.
He was on that plane?
He was on that plane.
What?
So I don't know if you remember when I went back to Malaysia this past June for my cousin's wedding.
Yeah.
That's his daughter. That's why it was so important for us to come back, and then we name our son after my uncle. So it was Zil Andrew. Andrew's my uncle.
Oh my God.
And so since I was little, you know, my aunt and my uncle, they're both into the flight attendant. I think my aunt flies locally. My uncle flies international, right? So he would go to Beijing and San Francisco all the time. And when the flight went missing, I didn't react because I was literally in shock.
Yeah.
I remember at the time I was 21, 22 years old. I was living back home with my parents. I just had broken up with my ex at the time. And I remember I was walking into my garage door and the CNN was on. And then my parents came downstairs and said, "Hey, we need to talk to you about something." And I was like, "I already know." Mm-hmm. They're like, "How?" Social media. I was literally being tagged so many times on Facebook. And my grandma was in the airport crying and all this fun stuff. So anyway, long story short, that moment, what changed my life? That was the moment where I asked 2 questions. What is my purpose in life? And what am I going to do today to make myself remarkable every single day? Luckily, I do this for a living, so I feel like I'm being remarkable.
Yeah, I would say so, yeah.
You know, which is awesome. But I didn't know how to answer my first question was, what's my purpose in life? And I figured out only a couple of years ago. So this whole plane thing happened a decade ago, 2014.
Yeah.
And just recently I found out my purpose in life is to serve others. It's literally that simple. So from that moment forward, I lived the life that I wanted to live. I bought a Mustang. I live in a really nice luxury apartment, you know, and all the decisions that I made that following year, 2015, crumbled at the end of the year. Like my roommate jumped out on me. Like I was at a point homeless, honestly, for a minute. And that's when I met Jess as well. And she took me into her sister's house. So from that moment, like I said, everyone has that moment. That was my turnaround time in my life. It's not in health. That was health stuff that was way later. Yeah. But this is just me living the life that I want to live, because, man, like, why would I want to live the life that I want to live what people tell me to do? Like the society. I love my parents, but I'm not listening to any of my parents, what they want me to say or do. And so I started to do my own thing, and I'm glad I did that, because I made so many mistakes that brought me here today. Yeah. And so I know that feeling where you're talking to your, you know, third grader self, and it's the same thing with me. Like, if I can go back and tell myself, I remember I was going to work the next day. I was crying in the car. Like, I couldn't see the road. I had to pull over. Oh, wow. And I came to work. The worst part about that whole experience was I came to work, and everybody knows that I'm from Malaysia, right? Everybody came to work and be like, "Oh, did you see this plane? What missing?"
And you have to relive it over
and I'm like,
over.
And I just ignored everybody at the time. I'm like, yeah, I heard it. I didn't say anything, you know. And later that day, and I finally told my buddy John, I was like, hey, bro, like, I don't want to talk about it. Like, my uncle is on that plane. And he was like, his jaw just dropped. Yeah. And so, love the guy. He lives in Vegas now. He's one of my really good friends today. And how he explained it to me was, that day that happened to your family was equivalent to 9/11 for him when he was living in Jersey. And that brought me, oh, shit. Right, because if you live in that area around that time, you know of a friend of a friend or somebody.
You went through it.
Yeah, you went through it, right? So, and then I'm like, okay. And I'm and the fact that I went through that on my own, knowing that, naming my son after him, that was so beautiful. I remember my cousin was walking down the aisle, and my uncle's brother walked down the aisle, and I didn't realize that I was filming. Oh, wow. I was like, shit. Yeah. He could have been here, right? Yeah. And so, anyway. I think that I think that's what made the trip so special. You know, I was there for 3 weeks. Yeah. Spending time with my cousins, and my cousin and I had a one-on-one, you know, and she'd tell me a couple of things, and I was like, hey, and she was like, I'm glad I get to meet your son, you know. And so that was beautiful.
Do you want the emotional support pillow?
Yeah, seriously.
Anyway, yeah, I never really talked about that, you know, and that's why the trip was so special for me and my family. Yeah. And the wedding was there was 2 weddings. There was a church wedding, and then there was traditional wedding. The traditional wedding where,
is that your picture downstairs with Jess? Was it from the wedding?
Kind of like so that, beautiful. Yeah. So it's very similar. And so the second wedding happened, the alcohol starts flowing, right? Yeah. And then I'm
asleep, my phone goes off. I'm like, what the hell? And I look, and it's a video. And I'm like, oh my God.
And so and it started off with my aunt. My aunt was crying. I was like, oh, I think I know why. Yeah. And everybody was confronting her, and the alcohol starts to flow, and everybody, and then my cousins got emotional, and I got emotional. My little brother got emotional. So there was a lot of things, and even my cousin was like, you know, I felt his presence here today. Yeah. Yep. You know, and so anyway, so that's why that trip was so awesome, because when I came back, my whole perspective on life completely changed. Like, I'm not chasing the money anymore. I'm not chasing, you know, I don't want to get more houses and cars. It's like, I have all these things. Why am I keep chasing? When is enough? Like, how much money is enough? Yep. Yeah. Right? And what I didn't realize until I get back, I'm like, well, none of these things fucking matter, bro. No. Once 100 years from now, all 4 of us are going to be underground. The house that we work for, right? where's that going to go?
The cars, the clothes, the fancy watches. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what I mean? And then once we pass away, do you think our great grandkids really, visit our graves and really think about us? Not really, and so.
Well, if they do, it's not going to be because, my great-grandpa Johan had 5 houses.
No.
It's, the man he was, right? It's legacy we leave behind.
Yeah.
So I think the message that I want to share with everyone here is because don't take life for granted.
Mm-hmm.
It's not granted.
Take it day by day.
Mm-hmm.
Tomorrow is another day.
Mm-hmm.
You can do better tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's all you want to think about.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's why today is the present.
Yep.
Right? Tomorrow is a mystery.
I love that you put family first, and everything we've talked about with our health.
Yeah.
It comes down to what was the kid's perspective and how did you do it with Richard? And it's, we spend a lot of time on the calipers and on the machines and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
That's just a representation, but it all comes back to what is the mark you're leaving behind for your family? Mm-hmm. Family is everything. I loved watching you become a dad through this whole journey.
It's been the greatest thing.
With the net and all of the travel that you had to do and all of you were so urgent in creating a family and you had to work a lot harder for it than a lot of people, but it just is such a revelation of what's important, and you're right. I've had and driven really nice cars and dream houses and all this stuff. And Jim Carrey said, I hope that everyone that is in the world achieves what they want to financially so that they realize that's not the point.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm. When you chase happiness, the happiness it's not there.
It keeps running.
It just keeps running away because you'll never have enough, right? Yeah. I think that's the biggest thing with working with the clients that we work with. We have such a high level clients, millionaires and things like that, business owners. And when I see their family struggling emotionally, mentally, I'm like, man, you have all of these things.
Is it worth it at that point to have those things?
Yeah. So, if you haven't seen the documentary on Netflix,
I need to go watch it now.
I have it on my list.
Yep.
Till this day,
have you watched it?
I have not watched it.
It's so hard.
I still have it on my list today, and I think I'm not ready yet because I lived that moment.
Yeah, you did. That was
hard.
real.
It's hard.
So
my wife watched it and she didn't know, and so I had to tell her.
Oh.
And I kind of brought it up to him don't talk about it when you see him. This was last year when you came to my house for Slava. Mm-hmm. It came out, and so she just watched it, and just seeing the families and all that stuff, I couldn't even imagine what you were going through and how that was.
And you know what's crazy?
Yeah.
A fucking plane can go missing.
Yeah, and we can't find it.
Yeah, okay.
And they still can't find it.
Mm-hmm.
But
I think it's the conspiracies, and that's one thing be prepared for.
There's a lot of conspiracies, and in fact, a couple months later, maybe a year after that, Malaysia Airlines also blew up above Ukraine, right? Ukraine, so that was hard too. Mm-hmm. And thank God none of my family were involved in that, but I saw that. I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah.
Again, I don't want to get into the whole conspiracy thing. All I can say is what I took from that was massive to the point where I named my son after him. And okay, now I want to live my life with intentions.
Yeah.
Live your life with intentions.
Not on accident. When my brother passed away in July of this year, I kept one of those programs, from the funeral. And, that I keep it in the center of my car, my car console, because whenever I reach in there, I see his face. Now, the first time, it freaked me out because I forgot I put it in there. And I open up my car, I'm like, that was funny, right? He's still playing jokes on me, but it is a reminder to me to, like you said, live every day on purpose. And the moments are so mundane. I remember when he passed away, we left the hospital room. And that's a weird feeling. Mm-hmm. It's a very sacred moment. So and with respect to the rest of my family, I don't talk a lot about it. So we walked out, and just how do you process that? How do you just everything that goes through your brain and my dad, bless his heart, he's a big bear. He's got a softy Jello pudding core, and he doesn't know how to cope with this. None of us do. None of us are trained for this. No. And so it was the most appropriate yet mundane thing in the world when 15 minutes later he's like, well, should we go get some lunch? And then we go to Apollo Burger in Salt Lake, and my mind is just going through this mind fuck of I just did the worst thing in the world, and now I'm eating a cheeseburger. What sense does that make? Yeah. And then the rest of the day, I did some
therapy shopping, and I went to Joann's of all places and bought a bunch of yarn to make blankets for my sisters. And I'm walking up and down the aisles at Joann's, like, I cannot help but think, did someone I would just walk past go through the same thing I did today?
Yeah.
I'm at the grocery store, or I'm at the whatever store today, which is the weirdest thing in the world. And so are other people. Maybe other people
are having a hard day.
Are having a hard day. Maybe she's here because she just had to bury her dog, or maybe she's here because she's like, and it just made me think about the people around me so much more and have so much more patience and so much more compassion. When I hear all these stories about road rage, especially recently here, and people are dying.
Yeah. It's like crazy, bro.
You cut me off, so I'm going to kill you for it? Like, what the hell?
That happened in Lehigh not that long ago.
Yeah, it blows my mind. And now when I'm down the road, I'm like, maybe that girl just drove away from her husband the last time. You don't know.
Yeah.
The level of compassion that we need to have each other to make this village better for the children that we're raising, we've overlooked it. We need to get back.
Marianne, this has been a great... I didn't think I was going to be emotional today.
I know. I'm trying not to cry.
Yeah. You're the last one.
No.
Maybe
This has been great. It's lovely to have you on here because I wanted you to share your journey from... You know, it's possible for you being pregnant and hire a coach, and still, you still train too.
Oh, of course I do. Yeah,
I remember we were doing legs, and you were like, "But I feel like the baby's gonna pop out any minute," and I'm like, "Okay, well, don't do that." You know, I don't want to clean up after that, but
my legs are hurting because I ran yesterday. I hate running, and I got back to it because I hate it.
So we got we've gone through pregnancies, and then we prep, and now I know we had some hard conversations in between. And now you're thriving more than ever. You're doing your own thing now. Like, who would have never thought that you were doing your own thing? You have a great husband, family to support you. And the little one is so cute. It looks just like him.
I know, right?
It's same thing with my son. Looks like me. So
I noticed that this morning. I'm like, hey, baby-o.
Yeah, it's literally the same.
I tell my wife, I'm not a dad. I'm just a father figure because she's a carbon copy of her mom.
Literally.
It's like they just cloned her in the clinic, and that's it. I'm like, you got nothing from me, kid. What is
just
this?
wait. Just wait. It'll come.
All right, this is it. Well, I would love to have Richard on.
Yeah, I need to send it this way.
And and I know he's going to talk about his side of things.
Oh, he's such a miracle of a dad.
So it's going to be awesome. This is episode number 27. I want to say thank you for all of you that have shared our podcast on YouTube, Spotify, on Instagram and Facebook, and a lot of the things that we promote. And without you guys, we wouldn't be here today.
Yeah.
So thank you, and we'll see you next time.